Never seen a lame man walk, never heard a dumb man talk, never seen a blind man see. I promise you will change his name. Never seen a canceled debt, never seen all the poor get fed, never seen a prisoner set free. I promise you will change his name. Broken heart made whole. Never seen an orphan find a home. Never seen the weak find the strength. I promise you will change his name. Never seen the sick get healed. Never seen a mystery revealed. Never seen a
All right, ladies and gentlemen on the interwebs out there in cyberspace, hope you're having a great day today. We just finished with Easter weekend. I hope you went and worshiped at your church and you had a great time. But we're back here from the Big C and Bigger T podcast, and Clint, I'm excited.
I bet, yeah. When we first started talking about adding a guest, unfortunately, we ruined our first guest last week with Robert.
That's true.
But I did get to troll him at least just a little bit with the Photoshop picture of him on Costanza.
If you missed that, you need to watch it.
Yeah, if you missed that, go back and watch the last 15 minutes. A lot of good stuff on there, including an agreement that was made. I'm not going to spoil it.
Yeah,
but it does involve a tattoo. And I'll tell Coach about it later because he's not in the mood for our nonsense today. But ladies and gentlemen, I would say legendary. He will disagree with me 110%, but legendary Arkansas high school football coach, Bill Buckner is with us. Coach, thank you for jumping on with us.
Well, thank
Welcome,
you,
Coach.
Travis. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
So,
Coach, you came to Greenbrier where we were. I guess let's see, we were in 9th grade, I believe. You came as a junior high coach, correct?
Well, I really came as a high school coach. I was in 1989.
Okay.
Worked with Coach Tapley, and then and worked with Coach Tapley 2 years, and then became head coach. I guess 91 something, 91 or 92.
92 because it was my junior year.
Yeah, 92.
So,
all right, yeah, and so he was our head coach for a couple years there, and then stayed at Greenbrier, then came back to Greenbrier. We can talk about that stuff a little more, but Coach, just tell us a little bit about what got you into football.
Well, Travis and Clint, growing up, I played sports and coached peewee ball in college a little bit, and that's just something I enjoyed, working with kids and young people, and something I always wanted to do. And so basically that's what I did, and moved around a lot when I was younger, coach, and stayed single for a long time, and coached in Arkansas, coached in Louisiana for several years, and then came back and got out of coaching. And in 1988, and I thought I was going to make a fortune selling insurance, and about went broke, and I got married, and my Vicky and I decided we were looking for a change, and we were living in Pine Bluff at the time, and decided we wanted to do something else, and so had an opportunity to come to Greenbrier. Just Lord works in mysterious ways and got us up here, and we've been in Buckner County area, ever since.
Now, you did do some GA. You were a graduate assistant at the Harvard of the South in Russellville, right?
Yeah, well, really, I was an assistant coach. I was what they called a restricted earnings coach at the time. Basically, we're going to let you work, but we ain't going to pay you anything.
That's
and
right.
then I was a GA at Louisiana Monroe prior to that. So I had 4 or 5 years of, you full-time coach, part-time pay, basically.
Yeah.
I remember when I was at Tech, one of the GAs, he played for Coach Mullins at Northeastern Louisiana. I think wherever the Deacons are in Natchitoches.
He's in Northwest
Louisiana.
Yeah.
I get my areas confused.
That's all right.
As he's Mo's social studies teacher over here, he'll hit me with his hat for old time's sake. He didn't wear one just because he wouldn't be tempted, I think.
That's right.
So, yeah. So, but he said GA stands for gosh darn everything. they would have them out there striping the field, putting stickers on the helmet. Like they pretty much, D2, they don't have an equipment department. So,
he's right.
Well, that's and that gave you kind of a wide range of experience, didn't it? Getting to do the college.
Yeah, I tell you, I got to work with a lot of really good people, a lot of really good coaches, and some are retired. Some of those guys end up being head college coaches. Some of those guys end up coaching the NFL. So I was fortunate when I was a younger coach to be around a lot of really good, solid guys, and it was very beneficial to me in my career.
Yeah. Who were some of your coaching influences that you look at this guy with someone that you kind of emulated?
Yeah, I mean, some guys y'all would know, some guys you may not have heard of. Harold Stillman, that was the head coach of Arkansas Tech and was really defensive coordinator for several different stops with Red Parker.
Okay.
And I coached with Coach Stillman 4 years. A guy who won a national championship in Division II or 1AA, Pat Collins, who y'all probably not familiar with, but he's Hall of Famer in Louisiana and spent several years with Coach Collins. Those are probably the two biggest quote name coaches that coaches know about, And I know my head coach at Louisiana Monroe was John David Crow, who played for Coach Bryant at Texas A&M, won the Heisman Trophy in 1957. Coach Crow passed away a few years ago. He's a great coach, great man. And so, those are three. And, there are a lot of other guys that are still doing it today, that I've been fortunate. J.B. Grimes, I think J.B. just retired, but he'd been A&M, Arkansas, Virginia Tech, a lot of places. And a lot of guys, just high school coaches I work with, Coach Stanley at Bologna, and just really good people, good coaches.
Were you around Red Parker any? Yeah,
well, just a little bit, not working with him, but we'd visited from time to time and spend a little time with him. But man, he was a sharp guy. Really,
he was brilliant, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, great coach and a really good man.
He was at OBU when I was there. And
oh, okay,
he lived in an on-campus apartment.
Yeah.
So he would come to the cafeteria and eat. And I had him for my minor was coaching, and so I had him for football coaching.
Oh, okay.
That semester. And one of the reasons because I knew who he was, I wanted to take it under him.
He's one of the all-time greats, man.
Oh,
Coach Parker.
Well, his grandson was there at the same time, so we got to hear stories about him getting calls from Barry Switzer and people like that during the week saying, "Hey, we're playing this kind of defense.
Yeah,
what plays you think is going to work good?
Yeah, what can we do?"
Yeah,
that's right.
He was a neat guy. He had lots of good stories. If you don't know who Red Parker is, he's he made a stint through college. He pretty much recruited Danny Ford's national championship team at Clemson.
Yeah.
And he was head coach at Citadel once, I think, and did some.
He was offensive coordinator at Ole Miss.
Ole Miss, yeah. In fact, he was there when that. A lot of Razorback fans will remember there was against the Razorbacks. There was a young man that got paralyzed.
Yeah, check him out.
And I think he was there when as a coach whenever that happened. I think if I remember right. I may be wrong there, but anyway, sorry, that name started churning there for me.
And if anybody pays attention to the shows, me and Travis, like, we have some scripted questions we wanted to ask it. I mean, and we're going back and forth, but like whoever influenced you, that was a question that I just came up with on the fly. Now, one of the things that you coached couple years. You turned 30 like 2 days ago.
That's right.
But so you go back decades, and one of the things I hate is that's the way we've always done it. The reason why, and as you know, the game of football in Arkansas has adapted over the years. I know Travis had a question about weightlifting during season. When I played for you in high school, spring football practice wasn't a thing, and it's something. How do you think the adding 7-on-7 weightlifting during the year, and what are some other changes like the implementing a 7-on-7?
Yeah, there have been a lot of positive changes, and I think maybe some not so good, but definitely the athletes are bigger, stronger, and faster because it's year round. Right. And weight training, strength training, nutrition, all those things, and the kids are just better. They're bigger, it's just everything. And they're more skilled because they're doing it more, with the 7-on-7, and their skill levels getting higher. Of course, they're getting more exposure to the colleges and stuff. So, there have been a lot of really good things as far as the sport. On the negative side of that, though, sometimes I feel like for some of the kids, it's turned into more of a job than it should be, that they don't have a chance to really be kids, what I think. And so from that standpoint, I think it's a negative thing. And the deal, it used to be, and I don't know, it's changing some, hopefully, that, there's all the specialization and, you play one sport, and but I think hopefully that's changing where they're encouraging athletes to do it all, because very few of these kids coming out of high school are going to play college sports. Even very, very fewer than them are going to play pro, and so the high school is it for the majority of them, and so they need to enjoy it while they can. And ironically though, they're playing tonight. One of the kid that made the really long shot for Gonzaga the other night in the basketball game. Well, they were talking about he was like Mr. Football and Mr. Basketball last year in his senior year of high school in Minnesota, which just shows that, you can do both. And if, you're talented and stuff. So, but those are some of the big things. Of course, the spread offense, and everybody's throwing the football, and they've made the rules such that the offense basically has a lot of advantages because people want to see high scoring games and all that kind of stuff, and they kind of limit defensively what you can do and what you can't do. So basically, they can hold you to death over there on offense.
I held every play.
Well, you had to.
I didn't. I wasn't blessed with that talent baggage. I was on here. I was on here a couple of weeks ago. You learn some things. As you go through the years. Mm-hmm. And like I was talking about how after Pittman left, you saw a lot of the offensive linemen. Especially I remember seeing the left tackle one time chasing with his hands.
Oh yeah.
And he didn't move his feet. And I was like, you don't do that. That's something you should have learned in high school. Yeah. And he's like, so he's probably sitting over going, why didn't you learn that in high school?
No.
So, but
I want to get back to the changes in style, because I think that's a big thing you can speak on. But I want to go back and agree with you on and talk about the playing different sports, because I think there's another reason that Alabama football players get drafted. Besides just they're great, it's part of it is they're used to winning, and they're used to competing for national championships. And if you go recruit, if you recruit a Vanderbilt player, they may be a great player, but they're not used to competing on the same level that Alabama is. And those guys, you look at like Bill Belichick loves to fill his locker room with Alabama players because those guys have a mentality. They're going to compete and they're going to win. And winning is a mentality. I mean, it is. I mean, you look at, when PA gets out on the field, they may not have the best athletes on the field, but they daggum believe they're going to win every game. Yeah. And those guys get into, you may be at a school where you don't have the best football team, but you may have a really good basketball team. and you have a chance to experience winning doing that and competing for winning, you know, for chances to win in baseball or whatever. So I think that's a big part of letting kids play. And I think you're right. There's a lot of pushback against that now. Although some coaches aren't going in too happy about it.
Well, you know, it's, you know, we're kind of in that every kid gets a trophy, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But, you know, and back to Alabama, though, one thing about them too is, you know, they recruit 4 stars, 5, they get the best.
Yeah.
But the thing about them, I think that's overlooked sometimes is they do a great job of player development.
Yeah.
You know, when they get them, they're good, and when they leave, they're really good.
Yeah.
And they do a great job with the guys they have, and plus you look at it in practice, they're going to get better every day, because if you don't get better,
going to get
somebody nipping at your heels that ready to take your spot, and so they're going to get a lot better throughout their time there, because they're always going to be pushed, not just by the coaches, but they're being pushed by the guys at their position, and so they, you know, they've got it going, and I'm encouraged with Coach Pittman and what I've seen of how they're doing things, and you know, I like what I've seen so far as they're competing, you know, and that's the first thing you got to do is you got to try to be competitive. And I thought they made good progress this last year in doing that, and hopefully they can just keep moving forward in that direction.
What do you think the biggest difference that Pittman has brought to this table? I mean, I think we can all three sit here and go, Chad Morris was a disaster. He was. But what do you think the biggest difference that Pittman has brought in as Razorback head football coach?
Well, I think, one, he's a coach who's to all the players, not just one side, not just offense or defense, but all of them players look to him as he's their head coach. And I think, you know, he wants to be at Arkansas. That's a big thing. I think he's done a great job with his coaching staff. He's got guys that are SEC, coached SEC football, and they can obviously, I think they can recruit, or hopefully they can recruit. You know, that'll remain to be seen in the next few years. But, you know, they'll get their talent level up. And but I think, you know, he just is just a solid guy. And I know the coaches in the state, I think, like him a lot. And that's a big thing. It's just that you can get high school coaches on your side, and you know, they've got to be able to recruit not just Arkansas, but Texas, Missouri, Oklahoma, in the region, you know.
Yeah.
And but I think he's, you know, if I just give him time, I think he's the real deal. I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead. One of the things I see with him, Coach, is that, and this is one of those things that you can't really see it unless you're in the locker room and that you're on the practice field. But when I think, you know, I listen to a lot of the interviews and press conferences and all that, and it seems like he's doing a real good job of building leadership and giving ownership to his players and building some leaders among those players. You see the way like a Grant Morgan and Bumper Pool have stepped up. You see the way even some of the offensive guys, you know, and some of the have become vocal type leaders. What are some ways, as you coach through the years, what do you think how important is it to build leaders within the team? And
I'll go ahead, Trey.
What are some ways to do that?
Well, you know, that's probably one thing I wish I had been better at, you know. You know, some guys too are leaders, some guys are followers, and you need both. And but you know, like I said, you got to give those guys ownership, you know, where you give them input in what you're doing. And you know, the days of my way or the highway are long gone. And you know, unfortunately, probably I grew up sometimes played under that model and coached under that model, you know, and coached like that too at some point in time. But it's changed, and kids are in some way have changed, some way they hadn't. But you know, you've got to get them to buy into what you're doing, and that comes in too, to believing in what you do, because they want to be successful, and they don't want to put all that time in, all that effort and work, and then go out there and lose on Friday or lose on Saturday or whenever. They've got to see some payback, or they've got to see some benefit. And the time is of the way we live now, though. And this is true in pros or college or even it's filtering down to high school. Is that window that a coach has to get it done to show that improvement is shorter and shorter and shorter. Yeah. And that's so, everybody's looking for success, but they want it now. And so that's, I don't know the answer to that, but you got to have confidence in your kids and show that you trust them, believe in them, and they'll return that to you.
It's so hard because I know, as a high school coach, you're kind of at the mercy of the kids that live in your town. I mean,
you can't recruit a better leader.
Yeah, you can't recruit. So you've either got the kids there or not. And there's only so much you can do via scheme. But speaking of schemes, whenever you took over as head coach at Greenbrier, and I went to Tech, and we ran the run and shoot, basically wide open. So
yeah.
I didn't know how to pass block, and I blame that on you.
That's my fault.
but you installed the dead tee. And one thing Travis was one of the stories he was talking about, and I'll let him tell it. That way I'm not taking words out of his mouth. But I'll let Travis tell the story, and then my question is, why the dead tee?
Okay.
Why the dead tee? Go ahead.
And Coach, I don't know if you knew this in high school, but I've always been kind of a football nerd. So I was going to the library, checking out books on the run and shoot, Jerry Glanville, and there was a few books out on the spread back then and things like that. Yeah. And so I was always thinking, man, why are we not passing the ball more? And does Coach really know what he's doing? And then I went to my freshman year at Ouachita. I befriended a guy that was from Fordyce, and we had played them our junior year in the playoffs down here. Mm-hmm. And they were better than us. They had more talent. What our fastest guy ran in the 4.6s, and they had guys in the 4.4s,
and more than one of
them lined up at receiver. Yeah. And they were big too. Yeah. And, but we were only down, I think 7-0 at half.
Yeah.
And we only lost 22-6.
Yeah.
And I was talking to him. He was a starting middle linebacker for him, or a linebacker for him.
Yeah.
And he said, man, y'all's offense had us so confused. We didn't know what we were doing. And this was the number 3 ranked team in the state. He said there was so much
defending state champs.
Yeah, there was so much misdirection. He said, and then y'all huddled 3 yards from the ball.
Yeah. So
y'all were running the dead tee, but you were a hurry up offense.
Yeah, we were.
I said, and so I went back and watched some of the tapes. And I want you to know that I'm sorry for ever doubting you.
That's all right.
It worked.
You worked by yourself.
It was beautiful. I was just mad because I was too slow to pull on 66 from left back. But talk about, I know, Greenbrier, you did the dead tee. Heber, I know you did the single wing there for a while. Yeah. I know at Valonia, you coached under Stanley. Y'all did the double wing.
Yeah.
So what's that draw of doing some of those older offenses?
I think
when everybody else was going different directions.
And probably, and sometimes on my part, that wasn't real smart because, the kids, they want to throw the ball. They want to, now I get it. I was kind of hard-headed at the time. But that being said, I want to do what I thought would give us a chance. And, like the dead tee, like at Greenbrier, I knew the only other school I knew really at that time that ran the dead tee was Cabot and Coach Malham. And I went over and visited with him one summer. And because that was something I kind of always I felt like we needed to be a little different and control the ball. And my thing then too was, and run the dead tee, it was the offense. Everybody's going to have to block. Everybody's going to have to play together. and didn't have any quote stars that we had played as a team. And I felt like that would give us the opportunity to do that. And then the thing about we huddled, we were the only team. I always want to do something a little different. And, nobody huddled that close to the ball.
Yeah.
And I figured that way we can run more plays. We can signal them in, we can run more plays, and we can fatigue the other team, which a lot of times we did. They got tired. And so I think from that, it kind of helped us. The deal at Heber, that's kind of interesting because the year before, we had some pretty good athletes, and I didn't do a good job of those guys as I should have. Looking back, I wish I could had a do-over with some of those guys because I had some really good athletes and they were good kids. But the year we went to single wing, that was something I told myself that if I ever got the opportunity, I wanted to run single wing. And so we had a few good players, but not very many, but I said, hey, if I'm ever going to do it, this is going to be time. And so I studied and I went to clinics, and there are not very many single wing clinics, but I found
I was gonna say, is that like you and two other guys?
I went to Missouri a couple of times.
I don't think you could even find one now, Coach. The clinics are all over the place.
Yeah, and I tell you, a lot of the Malzahn's early stuff is single wing oriented, based on single wing.
That's pretty much,
but it is.
That's Malzahn's offense. That's what Chad Morris's offense was.
Yeah, and we wanted to do that. And we put it in,
just
and
pass
really, I put it in, and we really had to sell it. I had to really sell it to the kids. And the first week or two, we kind of struggled, which I figured we would. But then we started showing some signs, and man, we hit about week 5 or week 6, man, we were rolling, and we were. We'd have huge holes and guys running forever, and people couldn't find the ball, and we started having fun, and so that was one of my more fun years of coaching.
Yeah,
and they did that when I was at Tech. They did that at UCA too. They were doing a little bit of the single wing.
Yeah,
and they busted. I remember my senior year we beat them like bad, which was good for me being from Buckner County. I always enjoyed beating UCF. If they run that single wing, and it was so hard to find the ball. And I know one of their touchdowns, they did a misdirection and dude was in the end zone. No, I don't think he got touched at all. But go ahead, Coach.
No, I was just going to say, but I understand now, the kids, they want to throw and catch, and, that's what's fun, and that's what everybody's doing. And you gotta adjust with the times, or you're going to get left behind. And
I do think there's something to being different, though. Like you said, because to me, that was genius of you to, like at Greenbrier, to do the hurry up with the dead tee. Because the way you worked us in practice, we were built to last in the fourth quarter. We were, because you worked, I've been around high school football, as a youth minister for years.
Yeah.
And these kids talk about the conditioning they do, and I may be wrong, or maybe I just think, but you put us through some tough conditioning at the end of practices, but it got us ready for, there were some games we needed that.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of guys having to go both ways, and that needed, to be ready for that. And
it it's not just a physical thing, it's a mental thing. And if we didn't have to do anything else, I want people to know that our kids were mentally and physically tough, that we had some toughness and had a little edge, and I felt like we did.
No, and I remember the way, I only played on offense for you. I didn't play defense.
Yeah.
I do remember there was one time somebody was hurt, so I was having to fill in as defensive tackle, and I was trying to run Wesley down, and you blew the whistle. I'm like, I ran all this way. I'm tackling this little dude. And so I tackled him a good 10 seconds after you blow the whistle, and Wesley got up and wanted to fight me. I'm like, that's probably not a good idea. But no, on being a little different, I think our junior year, Sean Walters had about 300 yards rushing off of one play, and that was the wraparound draw. Who came up with the wraparound? For those, we had Rodney Easterwood, great, very talented running back. He played a little bit at UCA. The quarterback would fake the ball to him, and then Sean would just sit there like this. They would wrap the ball in there, and he would sit there for a second, and the quarterback dropped back like he's about to pass. And then Sean would just run down the field, and no one would literally know who had the ball.
Yeah.
And
Rodney ran a wheel route.
In a row.
Rodney ran a wheel route and would wave his hands like he's going to catch it. If you remember, Clint, we learned the steps for pass blocking to learn that play. That's the only time we were ever taught any pass
I joked
blocking.
in the stands that our pass play was a draw back in the day.
Yeah.
Well, and then we were supposed to start yelling, pass, pass, pass.
No.
So the defense would worry that it was a pass.
Yeah, that play really, Coach Terry
Yeah.
Smith talked me into running that. And I said, "Really? Are you kidding me?" He said, "No, try it." So I said, "We'll work." We worked it. And I remember we ran it against Dardanelle. It was the first game we ran it. And we scored twice in the second half. And then we came the next week. I think we ran it. First time we ran against Clinton, and he ran about 70 yards for a touchdown.
That Clinton game, Sean and Rodney. Sean had I remember I was looking at I have the newspaper article for that somewhere. Yeah. But Sean, we were playing against that Jason Brown kid who was the state's leading rusher.
Yeah. And
we held him to like 70 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And he was averaging like 200 a game
at
that time. And then Sean had like 100 and something, and Rodney had 100 and something.
Yeah.
He ran all over him.
Yeah, we had a good night.
Yeah. That was I don't know, Lou Holtz play.
I don't know where Terry he got that somewhere. He saw it. And
it seemed like I've seen a Razorback highlight where Holtz ran that.
Yeah, there have been other people run it. Malzahn ran a version of it and on the punt. And, there have been different versions of it, but and I think Coach Malham ran a version of it, but they ran guard around. But basically, it's the same way. And, but that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun.
Well, I sort of ran a tackle around one time in mop-up duty.
It was just a fumble, and you just picked it up.
It was a fumble. Hey, I got 1 yard rushing for a first down. And Coach told me, he said, "I put you in the books, Travis." Rushing. But that's a one time it was good. I was slow on that pull because when I came around, the ball was laying there, and for a split second, I thought, "It's the end of the game. I should try to run this."
Yeah.
Then I said, "No, Coach will kill me if I fumble." So I just fell forward. But that was fun. Now we've talked a little bit about some guys here. Talk about some of the players you got to coach that were just so talented that
man,
some of them people may not have heard of, but
and you can talk about them good about me all you want.
Oh,
just
I'm joking. No, I don't know. Greenbrier, when I was there, going back to Jeff West, Stephen Carden, really good lineman, defensive lineman. Kenny Weedor was a heck of a quarterback when Coach Tapley was head coach. Billy Fryer, and then more y'all's age, Rodney Easterwood
was he as good as I remember? Because I just remember
the fastest guy, but man, he was tough and he was quick and
he had instincts, didn't he?
He had good instincts. Was a good player. I hate, Lee Grooms was a good player back during that time. Y'all mentioned Wesley. Wesley wasn't the biggest guy in the world, but he was really quick. And he'd run that dive and he'd be in secondary before you knew he had the ball. And then of course the class that was after you guys, with Ryan Reynolds and Shannon Whitley and Nolan Keller, Clyde Witten, DJ,
Clyde Whidden always amazed me. Such a
Yeah.
little guy, but he didn't miss a tackle.
No, he was one of the best tacklers that I've had. Clyde could tackle.
He may not touch more than their ankle, but they were going down.
Because he used to be a little chunky and then he lost a bunch of weight. And so Clyde literally went from playing nose guard.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was 6'4", 240 pounds in high school. And Clyde at nose guard would give me fits. And Clyde was probably, I don't want to insult him as hot, but he can't be over 5'5", 5'6".
Yeah, he was really talented,
but yeah,
good athlete. And then, you know, moving on, I know probably not as popular here, but you know, my time over at Bologna, I had some really good players. Nick Calger, that was a Hoss, really good. Josh McIntyre, several of those guys, Kyle Salmon, guys y'all might not be familiar with. They were really good high school football players. And Nick, in fact, played at UCA, was a really good tight end at UCA. Played quarterback and middle linebacker for us.
Well, Mitch Keller was
I mean,
if you talk about college careers, you
Mitch Keller.
I troll him because I have a championship ring, but he was about 100 times. He was starting left tackle at UCA about 4 years. Played the All-Star game.
Mitch started every game of his college career.
Yeah, I mean, just
from he redshirted his first year, and then you know he started every game for 4 years. Mitch was a heck of a player.
Yeah,
but if he had a desire to, if he would have had the desire to,
he's an offensive lineman, you know.
Yeah, you know, where I work, I use that offensive lineman by how you don't notice this department until they screw up, and that's the same way with the offensive lineman. Never notice it now. Now, if a college coach was to come in, and we're gonna get a little silly here, and ask you and don't be scared to hurt my feelings. What would be your honest assessment of my ability? Because I back then, at no point would I have used the word talented, athletic, describing myself. I walked on at Tech, and just through pure stubbornness, tough and stubborn is how I describe myself. Because you're going to have a hard time making me quit. You can go tell me to bear crawl 100 yards. I'd go bear crawl 100. You probably did. More than once. But if you said, Clint, go bear crawl 100 yards, you know I'm going to go bear crawl 100 yards, and then I'm going to run back and I'm going to finish practice. So tough and stubborn. But what would be, how would you describe me to a coach that was, other than just stay away from this kid?
Probably tough and stubborn.
That's just the word.
Good size, and none of us at that time, we weren't as mobile, didn't have great mobility, but no, you did a good job for us. All you guys did. And, the main thing, I just wanted you guys to do your best.
Right. And
y'all did. Y'all were fun to work with, fun to coach.
On the stubborn thing, I think there was too many times, and just looking at myself, I think more about Tech just because I'm getting old and it's the more recent in the memories. But I would always, what I thought I struggled with all the time was consistency. Like I would show you for a play or two what I would do, and then oh, I did a great job, and then the next, and then I'd do something like line up in the neutral zone or get too high, something like that. I remember we were playing Paris, and I pulled, or I got high. And Coach Smith goes, Clint, this is what I'm talking about. You're getting high. You're tired. I'm like, Coach, y'all had us. We were very well conditioned. I'm like, Coach, I'm fine. I'm not tired. And the next play, I pulled around, and that guy helicoptered like John Elway. I hit the guy. I said, he's like, okay, I get it. You're not tired. You screwed up. But, it's Clint had good size and would listen, was coachable, and those are the best attributes really for any player. That you got to be coachable. And Travis, you were the same way. You don't mind. You want to be coached, and that's the big thing. The hardest guy to try to coach, and you can't really coach him, is a guy that doesn't want to be coached. Doesn't want to listen. He wants to do it his way, and and sooner or later, you're gonna part company with those guys because they're gonna end up biting you in the rear end before it's all said and done.
You were too nice to us because I would have said I didn't have a mean streak. I was too nice. I didn't have that killer mentality out there. I was strong enough and big enough to whip the person across from me.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't mean enough to do it.
Well, that may have served you well though, Travis, and what you do now, you know.
On the other side, yeah.
It's all good, man. It's all
now
good.
talk about my awesome kicking ability though, Coach.
Oh, now if I remember, weren't you a left-footed kicker?
Left-footed, straight-on kicker.
Yeah. Did we have you one of those kicking shoes?
Well, no, because the kicking shoe was right-footed.
we didn't have the budget to buy two kicking shoes.
If you'd been really good, I'd have bought you one of the shoes.
I know. Yeah, I wouldn't. I did set a record.
18-yarder.
But
I did set a record. Which I mean, it was a horrible record. I kicked 6 extra points in a row. That was a record at Greenbrier at the time.
Yeah,
I know it's been beat now, but
yeah,
only kicked one field goal.
A lot, I think. So
I kicked one field goal, and you threatened my life before it. It was against Dardanelle.
Did you make it?
I think.
Did you make it?
It was a 23-yarder from the left hash, and I knuckleballed it over. It barely. I don't know if you remember. There was that little fence behind the goalpost.
Oh yeah,
closer to the locker rooms at Greenbrier.
Yeah.
Okay, it landed in between the fence and the goalpost.
Hey, as long as it
went over the crossing arm.
What an arc it went.
Hey, it was 3 points.
It's 3 points, baby. That's all that matters.
And we won the game.
And I could walk over to the sideline instead of running because you grabbed me by the face mask. You looked me in the eye and said, "Are you gonna make this?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "You better." Okay.
You sound bad, man.
No. That's what I needed. That's what I needed to get it in there. But
oh God,
no, I just
we do appreciate, a lot of tough love, but I think the key word in that was love. One thing me and Travis wanted to do was we wanted to kind of share our favorite story with, and I told Coach, I said my funny one was I had Mrs. Young for it's like a public speaking class. So I've always been like that annoying kid that wanted the center of attention, which is why I started a podcast and interrupt Travis all the time when we're doing it. But I was going to interview Coach for the podcast, and I came in. I thought I was hilarious that I had a great George H.W. Bush impression. That's who was president back then, boys and girls. And I went in and I started doing the impression. He just like, get out. He just told me like, get out of the office. But, I wasn't exactly the most studious. And this, I didn't discuss with you, the studious guy. I wasn't very studious. I'd flunked, I believe, English. I had an F in English and I needed to take summer school. And you probably remember me flunking a class, but you don't remember the good thing that you did after I flunked the class. So I needed to take summer school, and we need to talk to my parents. And you loaded me up in your truck, and you drove to my mom's house, my mom and dad's house, and you sit there in the living room with Mom and said, "Okay, here's the situation Clint's got himself in, and here's how we're going to help get him out." And I had to get myself out. I still had to pass the class. But whenever you did that, you could basically do no wrong in Sue Clark's book. And it was an act you probably never thought anything of, but looking back now, man, it means it's something you didn't have to do. It wasn't my senior year, so I wasn't going to be a starter for you. I was going to provide depth at best. But you took your time to do that for a kid. And now he's sitting here 44 years old and seeing his kids play sports and all that. And I tell you, looking back, it means the world to me. And I appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Probably more than I can say. And I'll pass it.
Well, Coach, I think my favorite story is, there was lots of funny ones, but he won't care if I say his name. Matt Broyles was trying to run through the little ropes deal one day, and he just couldn't get it, and he was falling down, and you grabbed him, and Matt's wasn't a small fella, You grabbed him by the back of his shoulder pads and lifted him up like a puppet and walked him off of those and said, just go get back in line. It was so funny. But no, Coach, that was one of the things we and Wesley and Robert wanted us to kind of tell you the same thing. When we get together, we told you we've been kind of getting together as a group of friends, kind of reconnecting over the last 3 or 4 years. And every time we get together, there's a Buckner story, or there's something that, we learned, something that meant a lot to us, and working as a youth minister, I know what it's like, how important having men, especially men outside of the home, that are willing to model what it means to be a man, to be willing to model pushing someone to better themselves and things like that. Because the sad thing is kids aren't getting that in their home very much. Yeah. And I know just in our group of friends, us 4 boys, we had some dads that did some great things with us, but there was times, especially at that age, we wasn't listening to them very much. Yeah. And but we listened to our coaches. We were talking the other day, my mom never made me say yes sir and no sir, and I still say yes sir and no sir to this day, is because of you and the other coaches expected that from us. Yeah. And that you provided something that all those years for a lot of kids, that I think that we'll never know what kind of impact it was, because it's something that's needed, something that was needed, and it's something that's still needed. And just want to thank you for that, and all the years of, you talked about, you don't know if you did a good job of building leaders, but you gave us room to lead if we wanted to. And as we talked about earlier, football wasn't our job with you. You gave room for academics. You talked to us about even if it was having to fill an economics class that you wanted to teach. He pulled a bunch of us aside after practice that one day and said, "Now I know some of y'all could use a good grade. I need some people to sign up for a class."
You got a good grade.
When you go register today, sign up for economics. And I was glad I did.
What I loved about Coach, though, is even economics, and that was a good class. I remember doing a project, and the guy I was with, of course, I was smarter than you guys because I picked the two of the smart kids as my partners. And I think my friends were in their own group. But I remember you'd given us a project, because you didn't hand us the grade. We had to do the work and earn it. You weren't just going to give it to us because you liked us. But I do remember you looked over there, and it wasn't the one that I had prepared. Yeah. You're like, Clint Clark, come on. I did. My associate, Mr. Ball, did that one. I've got it. But I knew as soon as you looked over there, and he's going to call on me first. Watch. Clint Clark.
But no, Coach, seriously, we thank you. And I know Wesley and Robert wanted us to really say thank you also.
I tell you, I think because of being in coaching and all that, I think Wesley probably more than the rest of us, you
helped him get some jobs too. So that,
he
not only helped him,
he got emotional. He almost teared up, talking about it. So, we're all just so grateful.
Well, I love you guys. Well, and y'all been great. And when I think about you guys, you mentioned, I thought I was thinking about that economics class. I knew we didn't have that 5 or 6.
Yeah.
I remember we always talk about the factors of production. Now, I know what they are now or not. But
I think Travis does.
I can't remember. I couldn't remember, but I think Robert and Wesley both remembered them. Remember the 5 factors. I couldn't remember them the other day for some reason.
But
that was. And like you said, we learned in that. I mean, it wasn't like we got a good grade, a little better grade than we might have in some other classes we did. But a lot of that was because we respected you and we were going to listen and do what you told us to do.
Y'all were great. And it was my privilege to work with you guys. It really was.
We do appreciate you, Coach. We appreciate you coming on here and doing this. And it's been a lot of fun. This we always end our show. We talk about we're just gonna kind of pass by the future guest.
Actually, I'm going to get Terry Smith's phone number from this guy if he's still
okay.
I don't have Terry. I wish I did.
I'm going to find Terry Smith. I'm going to get Terry Smith on this podcast. He's freakishly hairy and he smells bad when he's been running. I do remember
that man could sweat through.
I think Coach Smith is living in Nashville, Tennessee, but I'm not sure.
Is he?
I think he's retired. I'm not sure what he's doing, but he's been in Nashville for several years.
Okay.
You can go over there and teach us how it's done, can't you?
That's right, man.
Well, he may be trying to make it in the music biz over there or something.
You don't ever know. You never know.
He used to like to sing at those 5:30 in the morning workouts. We'd come up there and run. He'd be singing some dumb song you heard on the radio,
Yeah.
And I'd be just barely walking in there live. But one of the things we do, Coach, is we always pick these other big time podcasts. They get these big time sponsors and stuff.
Right.
We're not expecting to get big time sponsors here at the Big C Bigger T podcast. So we just throw some names out there in case they hear they were mentioned and they say, hey, we do want to sponsor them. So Clint, go ahead, and who's your sponsor for the week?
Well, a lot of the UFC fighters are sponsored by Monster energy drinks. Monster's not going to return my phone calls.
No.
But Rip It energy drinks might. They're
That's
99 cents at the ghetto gas station. Rip It, give your boy a call.
Rip It energy drinks, okay? Well, I'm gonna go a big name brand this week, but I'm gonna go with something that's useful for more than what it says it's useful for.
Oh, yeah, we did discuss this.
Okay, but because I'm gonna say Arm & Hammer baking soda.
Yeah, you use it for
or you could go with the off-brand. But I would go to my friends' houses and they would have the baking soda in the refrigerator to make the refrigerator smell good. But at our house, there was a bowl of baking soda next to the sink because we'd use that to brush our teeth when we'd run out of toothpaste. We used it for other reasons. And then Mom would get it out to clean with sometimes, because we'd run out of, we didn't have enough money for cleaners. So we would bust out the baking soda. So let's try for a big name, but we can talk about the alternative uses for it.
Right, yeah.
In the Arm & Hammer baking soda. And then you can throw it in some biscuits and help the biscuits taste good too.
Yeah.
All right. And then of course, as Clint said, we future guest, we want Terry Smith on here. That was our offensive line coach. Coach Buckner brought him in, and he was a little more of a character.
If you were the straight laced guy, then he was definitely definitely the colorful one of the bunch.
That's right. And then of course with mine, Jeff Nichols, I'm calling you out. I want to talk to you about a movie idea I got, The Disappearance of Mod Crawford. Look it up on the internet. Disappearance of Mod Crawford, 1956. Lady disappeared. No one knows where she went. She was sitting in her house shucking peas with her dog. She disappeared. Beth Brickell wrote a book about it in 86. It's a local story here in Camden, but I think it would make a great movie. And I have the movie idea. It's just, got
to talk to the guy.
I got to get to someone that knows better what to do with the idea. So Jeff Nichols, I need you. Y'all, don't forget our music on the beginning. The bumper is Sean Michelle. I want to thank him again for letting us use it, and check his music out on iTunes, Spotify, all those other places. He's got some stuff on YouTube also. And Coach, once again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Travis.
Clint, great job as always. It's a pleasure. Till next time, God bless y'all and have a good week.
Ain't nothing gonna change. These prayers breaking up hard drive so I can sow the seed. Ain't afraid of no aches and pain. Lord knows I gotta follow his lead. need. That's why I sweat when I work. My hands get filthy down in this dirt. Won't see no water till I hurt. Crying your kingdom come. Oh, I sweat when I work. My hands get filthy down in this dirt. Won't see no water till I hurt. Crying your kingdom come. Sun beating down so hard I can barely breathe. Hard to sing a joyful song. The work's got me on my knees. Then the gentle breeze blows by, pick me up right on time. Listen, now I know the Lord is near, working right by my side. That's why I sweat when I work. My hands get filthy down in this dirt. Won't see no water till I hurt. Crying your kingdom come. Oh, I sweat when I work. My hands get filthy down in this dirt. Won't see no water till I hurt. Crying your kingdom come. All right. Another day down, the work is done. I wonder what it's all worth. The pain of plowing all this ground, every bone in my body hurts. I pray, Lord, I can sleep in peace, and that should ease my mind. I know the Lord's work never stops, even in the middle of the night. That's why I swear when I work, my hands get filthy down in this dirt. Won't see no harvest when I hurt. Crying your kingdom come. Oh, I swear when I work, my hands get filthy down in this dirt. Won't see no harvest when I hurt. Crying your kingdom come. Let's take it down. Come on, boys. Sweat, work. Come on now. Filthy dirt. Let's tell them about it. Harvest, hurt. Kingdom come. Take it out a little bit more. Come on. Sweat, work, filthy dirt, harvest, hurt. Kingdom come. Come on, take it down. Sweat, work. That's right.
Filthy.
Come on.
Dirt. Harvest. Hurt. Kingdom come.
You know, sometimes people don't know how hard it is. Tell them about it.
Filthy.
You know, oh, harvest, you know it hurts. Crying your kingdom come. Give them a little bit more. Come on, Adrian. Sweat when I work. My hands get filthy dirt. Come on, you know, harvest, hurt. Crying your kingdom. Let's bring it all in, people. Oh, I sweat when I work. My hands get filthy down in this dirt.